todos. Hello, hello. Bienvenidos. Welcome. I still hear our intro. Hello. Bienvenidos. Welcome. I still hear our intro. Hello. Bienvenidos. Welcome. I still hear our intro. Hello. 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 Hello, everybody. I think we're having a little bit of technology difficulties. Welcome, welcome. This is Paola Guthrie from Creating Purpose with PAO. I welcome you to the Spanglish World Network and also H.E.R Network on Zingo TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download Zingo TV app on the respective app stores. The app is totally free. You can download it. And when you download it, please rate it. You can leave a comment. You can find Zingo TV on Google Chromecast, on Amazon Fire, Fire TV Stick, Roku Stick, and all smart TVs from 2016 and forward. Today in the house, I have my beautiful friend, Laura Ollinger. She is the owner and founder of Positively Healthy Coaching, where she coaches teenager girls and moms, to deal with their challenges of today. So I welcome you to the house, and I appreciate you being here today. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you so much, Paola. It's always good to talk to you.
Yes, it's always fun. So please, let us know, how can we build, a better relationship with our children?
Wow. Great question. It's a big one, but I kind of think it's a simple answer. It's just to connect with them through your presence, through listening, through eye contact, through just small moments here or there, just being a part of their life, being interested in their interests, being interested in who their friends are, whatever hobbies they have, kind of really taking an interest in getting to know them. And kind of most of all, just being curious about who is this person that lives with you that you've raised since they were a baby. But, as they're teenagers, they're obviously pulling away and becoming their own individual person, and they have their own identity that they're creating. So that's why you feel a little bit of that friction. But to stay connected, we kind of just want to meet them where they are.
Yes. And like you and I we share a mentor, right? Dr. Amen. And one of my favorite things that I learned from him is that give them that quality of time, right? Like give them that, like if we have, like you have 4 beautiful children, right? Mm-hmm. So divide your day kind of like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. He says 20 to 30 minutes, if we spend time with them daily, one-on-one. Just and one of the things that he says is to let them lead, right? Let them lead for that amount of time that you guys are spending together.
Yeah, I really like that. And, I think hearing that, some parents might initially feel a little bit overwhelmed by that number, because that sounds like a big number, especially when you get up to 3, 4, kids. But what I would say to that is it doesn't have to be this really super organized, planned thing. It can be time in the car, time running to Target, to the grocery store. It doesn't have to be this perfect, magical, let's go sit down and have this chat. It's not like that. It's just kind of like throughout the day, I think, is how the connection can be made.
Yes, I agree with you. And like I said, I don't know if I said it already, but or I thought is like sometimes it gets challenging, as life gets busy, and we have this, beautiful blessing, of being parents, because not everybody gets to experience parentinghood, but we, the ones who have the blessing to experience it, it is a blessing. And sometimes we get busy with life, our professional life, our health, and many, many, many other things that sometimes it can be overwhelming, thinking, oh, how am I doing as a parent? How can I improve? How can I better this relationship, especially for our older kids, like they begin to pull away a little bit because they are discovering their independence, and they have friends, and sometimes they, go out, and you don't have that much time as you have with the young ones, that they just, they stay home with you. So sometimes it can be challenging. One of my main questions that I have for you, because I know we have parents that they're learning how to parent their kids, and sometimes whenever they're trying to have this conversation, their child might get out of control, might feel intimidated, and they might just get mad at the parent, and they just blow out, and then the whole plan of having a magical moment just blows out of proportion, and then it goes away. What would you tell to those parents that are trying, they're learning how to create that bond, good bonding with their children?
Yeah, I think there's a couple pieces to that. So one is maybe to choose better timing if that's happening. Maybe they're choosing a time that's not great for the kid. Maybe they're tired, overwhelmed, stressed, exhausted. A lot of times when kids get home from school, and I know we're going to talk about back to school since it's coming up, moms want to talk, how was your day? What happened? Da, da, da. And, imagine you just worked, 12 hours in a row. And I'm not saying their day is 12 hours, but it feels 12 hours from the time they wake up to transportation, getting, going, sports, activities. And then they get home, and it's like, you kind of just want to zone out and chill out when you've had a big day. And imagine they do that 5 days a week. So that would be the big thing, is choose better timing. The next thing is to maybe kind of consider the language that you're using with your child. Maybe they're feeling attacked for some reason. It might be, you're saying, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Or how come this? And how, kind of like that, a little bit of an aggressive energy. And I would say to kind of like have some self-awareness, take a deep breath, pull back, instead of criticizing, like as a tone, kind of become more curious. So, hey, Johnny, I was just wondering, what do you think about, making your room super organized and clean on Sunday, so that way Monday you'll be really ready for the week? Can you hear the difference in that then versus, why don't you clean your room? Right. So I think that would be, so timing, tone, kind of the energetic movement. And probably the last thing would be, maybe have some awareness with what else is going on in their life. So teenagers, I know we're talking about all ages, but I deal specifically with teens and tweens. Maybe they're dealing with a stressful event that they're not sharing with you. And so think about when you've had a bad day, you don't necessarily want to talk about it, and you end up being, prickly or, having a negative tone. They might so you might have to get curious about, I'm wondering what's going on in their life that's causing them to react like this to me when I'm just trying to show my love and support.
Yes. One of the beautiful things that you mentioned that I want to tell our beautiful audience, you talked about tonality, the language. And it's a tonality that I think it helped me as a mom to better my parenting, because we also share another beautiful mentor, Vinu Keller, that we learned from her that tonality matters. And we can come from neutral, whenever we are neutral, then we're planting the seeds, right, for sharing that message, like having a good communication whenever we come from a neutral point of view or behavior. Whenever we come from a authoritarian behavior tonality, then there is no way whoever we're trying to communicate with, they're going to shut down. They're like, whatever, like we're not going to be able to talk, to communicate whatever we're trying to say. Our kids, our husband, whoever we're trying to communicate with, they will not listen to us because we're coming from that tonality. Like, I'm telling you, I'm the boss.
Right.
And automatically they just shut down. Also, if we come from a very unsecure or uncertain tonality behavior, we also will not deliver the message that we're trying to get across.
Right.
So
yeah, I completely agree with that. And I mean, the easiest way to remember that is to just think about how you want to be spoken to. No one wants to be spoken to with kind of a condescending tone, or even like you're suggesting that kind of insecure, unsure tone. It's like, well, why would you listen to anyone if that's how they were coming? So just that really neutral tone. And I can almost, Paola, hear some people in the audience potentially wondering why it wouldn't be the superior tone. Because if you are the parent, you are the authority, why would you not speak that way? So I kind of just hear some question marks about that. And I do want to say, I think there is a time and a place for that tone. But I think when it's coming to connecting with your child and having a relationship with them on a daily basis, that neutral would be best.
Yes, especially we're trying to build the relationship.
Right.
Nurture that relationship. I do agree with you. There is always a time and place, especially whenever you want to remind them, I'm the parent. Like in this case, I'm the parent. Remember, you're and it doesn't have to be ugly, but it's like sometimes, like my 6-year-old, she questions a lot. So I have to remind her, it's like, okay, I'm the mom. I'm the parent.
Right.
You're the daughter. And but yes, there's always a time and place.
Yeah, totally. And especially, like I always say, the biggest thing is if it comes to a matter of safety, personal safety, you don't have to worry as much about your tone. If your child is in danger and you really need to make sure that their physical body is safe, you can worry about the tone later, right? So, yeah.
Yes, definitely. How will you advise us to create those magic moments? Like I know you're going to share a little bit of how we can create like quality time, but what are some of the advice that you give to your mom's clients?
I think a couple things. It would probably be going back into creating kind of I'm saying two different things, so I want to be careful that I'm not being contradictory of myself, but kind of creating a kind of peaceful moment where all the phones aren't dinging and the TV's not on and the microwave's going and the oven is dinging and this, right? All the distraction. And so the reason why I was worried I might contradict myself is because I'm saying it doesn't have to be this perfect thing. It doesn't have to be this perfect thing, but at the same time, just be mindful. If you want to have a conversation and connect and create that magic moment, take your phone and put it arm's way, put the dingers off, all the sounds, all the alerts, and then just sit down and have some space. And the other thing I would say to that, which I have shared with moms before, is you might need to kind of adjust your expectations. And so a lot of times moms really want to connect and they really want to talk. And what I've had to help some moms of boys understand is that for boys, talking isn't always the way they want to connect, right? They might not want to make eye contact the way girls do. We want to sit down and face each other and have our teacups and, have that wonderful conversation. With a boy, that maybe the way to connect is throw the ball with them in the yard. Ask them what their favorite sports team is up to lately, kind of get on their level. And besides the physical stuff, they might not want to make direct eye contact. It might be the best conversation you ever have with your son is in the car when he's sitting beside you and you're both looking straight forward.
Food, that's another thing I found.
Absolutely. That's a great one. Well, why don't you share that? What's your idea about food?
Food is like, sometimes it's like, hey, do you want to go grab something to eat? And food always works for me.
Yeah.
Especially for my oldest one, it's kind of like, sure, let's go. And then as I'm driving, then, I start the conversation, but food works, you can.
I like that. Yeah. No, what teenage boy is going to turn down food, right?
Exactly. So that's another one that I would share with you all. And ask them what would be fun for you, and if you're on a budget, you're like, hey, I have $20 that I would love to take you out, for a snack, or what do you think we could do for fun for the next hour? So it doesn't have to be expensive.
Right.
Some of the things that I tell my moms is like, it could be that you're cooking the best sandwich ever, and you're telling them, like, this is what I used to eat when I was little, and I'm going to show you, and just create the experience. Sometimes, like, going back to the expectation, I've learned, sometimes I had higher expectations, but it's like, it's not about my expectation. It's about creating the moment, and whatever they have to share with me, then make the best out of it with it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, kind of, I know you really love to talk about gratitude. And I think that that's part of what that is creating that moment of gratitude. And I think that kind of automatically, energetically sets you up for a better experience when you can just be thankful for having the time, and it doesn't have to be perfect, and they don't have to say the perfect thing, and you don't have to say the perfect thing. It's like, let's just take the pressure off, and let's just be thankful for this time that we have together.
Yeah. And learn to see their thinking. Like, I had, we just came back from vacation, and I asked them, especially the boys, I was like, what are 3 things you're grateful for on, this experience you just had? And one of them said the love, I received from the family, the food, and he's like, spending time in the ocean. So like, okay, cool. And then the other one is like, well, seeing my family, spending time with my family, and the toys I got. I was like, okay, good. So then that's how we started that conversation about a trip. So ask them, what are they grateful for? What are 3 things they're grateful for this past week or today, or how we can improve, a certain vacation, or here we go, how can we end the vacation, summertime, how would be a good way to finish this summertime before you go back to school.
Yeah, I like that. I always like getting their input or their feedback for things, because a lot of parents just kind of dictate everything and don't give, especially their teenagers, any choice or any decision-making power in what happens. And that can be hard, because then, how would you like it if you were just handed something and saying, I mean, actually, that sounds kind of nice. Because as moms, we plan it all. And if somebody plans something for me, that would be fantastic. But, if they're a kid and they're used to everything, they, valuing their opinion is so fantastic. And it really brings you closer together.
Yes. And as a parent, you begin to see what they're, how they're thinking.
Yeah.
And if there is something you don't understand, sometimes I have to go back and they're like, well, what do you say that? What do you mean by that? Well, it's because I seen a movie, or it's because this happened. And you're like, oh, okay, that's how you're seeing it. Because, our perspective is different. So we get to know where they're at, even what they're thinking. So yeah, it's important to have this just small conversations. Yeah. How would you advise us to finish this summer? What are some of the advice you've given to those moms that you work with?
That's a good question. Well, we are kind of in that back to school mode. So that's kind of where we're at right now, as far as just planning for the year. But finishing out summer, well, I had a client today who was telling me, and actually I had another client last week who was telling me the same thing. The kids are anxious. They get very anxious about going back to school. And so today I was talking through, I have a client who is an 18-year-old boy. He's going to be a senior. And so he said his strategy is to distract himself with the next week. And I said, well, what does that look like for you? What do you mean by distract yourself? And he said, well, because he gets anxious and stressed about going back to school, that his best approach is to just kind of focus on other things until school does start. And then when it does start, he's going to just throw himself right in. And so I kind of liked that. I kind of liked that idea, because it's like this last week or two before school starts. I know some people in other parts of the country start, after Labor Day, but right now where we are, we're, next week. And so I think that advice would be to just have fun in this last week, right? When they're just feeling anxious, it's like, have the sleepovers, have the ice cream dates, have the pool time, right? Just live the last week of summer while we have a chance.
Yes. What are some of the habits that we could implement to start the new year, with one step ahead of us?
Yeah, I do caution about starting too many new habits at one time. You know, people get a little bit overzealous or very ambitious about starting it off, being perfectly organized in the calendar and the meal planning and the prep and this and that and the other. And what happens is people can't stick to so many new things all at one time. Then they abandon it all. They go back to their old ways and everything is kind of disorganized in a week or two. So I would say pick one or two new habits that you think, and the thing is, it's different for every family about what they need, but one or two new habits that will start the year off well. I know my kids are fantastic about waking themselves up. I haven't had to go wake up my kids in several years because they all set their own alarms. So I think for families who their kids don't do that, that would be a great one. It just really makes the family go better when I can hear the shower going in the other room and I know my son's up getting ready for school and my daughter's she loves to spend lots of time getting ready. So it's like, that's kind of a thing, that morning routine, as far as like how smoothly it is getting in the car or whatever, getting on the bus to like get to school on time. So kind of like working on that morning schedule would be a big thing. And then I know that after school time, what does it look like as far as when homework gets started or when it gets done? A lot of parents have to nag their kids, have you done your homework? Have you done your homework? I have to say, I'm really a hands-off mom personally. I trust that my kids do their work, and if they need help, they'll come ask me. I do check in occasionally, just find out how's it going, are you having any struggles with any of your classes? And so they are really good about kind of like taking ownership about their own stuff. They know what they need to do and they know when to do it. And so I guess I've been really blessed, but that's kind of how I've trained my kids. So they're kind of on autopilot. It's like, I'm not sure they even need me. I'm not sure they don't even need me. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. Yeah. What about you? What would you say?
I would say that let's think, how can we improve this new school year compared to the last one? What were some of our struggles that we had?
Yeah.
That we can improve. You can say, okay, I'm going to be better at this. Maybe you forgot your lunch, or or the kids forgot their lunch. Well, maybe they can work on their lunch the night before instead of in the morning.
Right.
Yeah, just think, yeah, and ask them. I think that's one thing I'm going to ask them. Hey, how can we improve this school year? What's something we can implement that is going to make it go by smoothly. I have to brag that my 6-year-old is now sleeping on her own bed for the past 2 nights. So it's like, yay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be good. I was like, I am glad she's going to first grade. So she's sleeping on her own bed. And I think it's going to be good.
Oh, good.
Yes. But yeah, I think thinking, how can we make it better? What's something that we all can do to make it better?
Yeah. And sometimes they might not know the answer to that necessarily. They might just it might be more of a feeling that they have, like a negative feeling associated with it, but they might not know why, because it depends on the age that we're talking about. Or it might be very crystal clear. Like they might know the one thing that always went wrong last year was they forgot their library book. They might be very clear about it. Or it might be an unsure. So that's where you might need to help them and say, well, what was the biggest challenge that we as a family had last year for school? And, they might be able to pinpoint, the morning or the evenings or the homework or the this or the that, right? And then that's when the conversation can kind of start, is like figure out what the challenges were and then figure out some solutions and kind of have them help. The older they are, the more they can help with what that solution is.
Yes. Another thing that's been in my mind, about our parents that I've noticed is like, what could we tell our parents that are dealing with tension, stress, could be from work, from health, financial, how to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes they spend 90% of their time in their worries. And then on top of that, they have to learn how to parent. So what could we tell to these beautiful people that are watching right now that might be struggling with, like, well, lucky you, you have the time, lucky you have the resources to plan for parenting, for the magical moments. What could we tell them?
I think those parents who are really struggling, need to take a moment or 5 minutes or however long it takes to journal out or to just talk out or to think out. They could even do it while we're talking right now. What is it that they really want? What do they want with their kids? What kind of relationship when they have with their kids? And when they have that answer, you know, assuming it's a close, connected, loving relationship, I think setting that intention when they walk in the door. So say it's been a long work day, maybe the kids are already home. Maybe they have to set up a reminder on their phone or set up some visual cue. I love visual cues, things that remind me. And, you know, maybe it's when you walk through that front door, you take your big deep breath, right, in and out, and you say, my intention is to connect with my children this evening, or to have a great relationship with my, whatever that the words are, it's their words. And that just sets you up for a better tone, because think about if you don't do that and you walk in the door, it's been a long day, you're exhausted, you still have to make dinner, blah, 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 all that stuff. You know, we all know that feeling. It just sets you up for a better time when you know what you're trying to accomplish, because there's always a choice, right? You have a moment where, you know, I think I was making pasta the other night and my water boiled over, you know, and the stove was clean before that, and then all it's yucky. And, you know, it's like all those little things, right? They can all stack up. And when we've had a long, stressful day, small things like that can make us upset. Or small things like your kid spills their drink at the dinner table, or messes up their brand new shirt, or loses something that we've had to pay, you know, money for. And we get upset, we get frustrated typically. And so it's like setting yourself up for, how can I best connect even when things go wrong, or when things go wrong? Because we know things go wrong. They always go wrong. It's their kids. And it's a family and we're human, right?
Yes. Yes. What can I learn from this situation?
Yeah.
And it's like, what can I learn from this situation? For anybody out there, you know, if you're struggling with your marriage, you're struggling in your professional life, you're struggling with family issues, if you're struggling with, you know, financial issues, nothing lasts forever. First of all, nothing lasts forever. You know, that problem can pass, you know, because if we shift our focus, if we begin to see the good things that we have in our life versus the problems that we're dealing with, what's weighting us down, we begin to see the beauty within life, then we can set the attention and intention that you're talking about. Whenever, we have to set that special time for our kids. It's like breathe and say, you know, like, I want my kids to be beautiful citizens. So set the intention, the attention for your kids, and forget about the worries for that time.
Yeah, I think what you just said was great, because it can be thought of as a reframe where, you know, in my example, my first instinct was, oh, my stove was clean, now I have to clean it, right? But then what I say to myself is, oh, it's just water. Oh, it's just a stove. Like nothing seriously bad just happened, right? We're all okay. Everybody's safe. There's no major disasters, right? And it's just about putting things in perspective. Like it's just a little water. No big deal, right?
Yes, reframing. Yes, reframe. Learn to reframe, because I think it's a habit that I chose to adopt. You know, learn to reframe every time something happens. It's like, okay, what can I learn from this situation? You know, how can I become a better person from this situation versus, you know, like changing the mood to the negative. It's like, no, you know, I'm not going to let my, you know, the anger spike up. It's like, how can I keep my gratitude? How can I keep my coolness going even through this stressful moment? And begin to see the blessings. Like sometimes things happen for us to learn, you know, like, okay, how can I handle my finances better? You know, how can I get along with, you know, my husband better? How can I improve this relationship and begin to find ways to improve life? You know, I think that's just the secret of life. I think, Laura, is like, we'll never get to, oh, this is, you know, beautiful and bring me my pina colada. I think is always, you know, there is always something to learn. There's always a new puzzle to add into our life, our big picture of life. You know, there's always something to learn. There's always something to adjust and become better humans, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And there's two more questions that I ask myself when I'm trying to do a reframe for myself, which is A, what is the gift in this? How, something good can usually come out of every bad situation. And secondly, I ask myself, how is this making me a better person? How is this making me a better mom? How is this making me better? And I can almost always find an answer to that when things are hard. It always forces, those challenges force me to become better, stronger, more patient, more resilient, whatever that might be. It's forcing me to grow. And so just kind of seeing the challenges as an opportunity for growth as a woman, as a mom, as a human, then, it kind of helps us deal with all those little stressors every day better.
Yes. And all of the moms that are watching us right now is like, we hear you, we hear you, because we have a big responsibility. And at the same time, it's a big blessing that we're able to multitask. We're able to clean the house. We're able to do laundry. We're able to keep up with the schools, the kids' school activities, or if they need money, or if they, there are those notes that come to school, come home every day. And sometimes moms are the responsible, but get to read it, get to sign them. We're just, we're a blessing to our kids. We are a blessing to our kids, and we get to do it. We don't have to do it, but it's like we get to do it. We have the opportunity to be the helpers and in the home. And sometimes it can be overwhelming, but if you try to tilt the picture a little bit and see how big impact you do in the home, you're doing an amazing job. If you're watching this show, it's because you care. If you're always reading and trying to figure out how to improve the relationship with your family, it's because you care. And we hear you. That's why we do what we do, is because we want to make the load a little bit easier by reminding you, that there is ways to turn the situation around and find the gift in every situation. And whenever you feel overwhelmed, think it's like we also get overwhelmed, but we have the strategies, we have the techniques that we share with you to turn it around, to be like, no, it's like, I get to be a mom. I get to do this, and see the beauty and the blessing of this beautiful experience that life is giving us.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that you said that so beautifully. And I do have something to add as well, which is, a lot of times as moms, we feel a combination of negative feelings. I think one, we feel unappreciated or underappreciated at times. I think other times we feel like we're doing the grunt work, which is, all those kind of household chores and tasks. And our lives can feel kind of monotonous and, it's kind of like Groundhog Day, where it's like the same thing every day, right? Like, oh my gosh, how many times can I empty the dishwasher again, right? It's again. It's like it never ends. And so one strategy I have for that is, to stop looking for gratitude from your kids or your partner, your husband, whoever that might be, and start just giving yourself the gratitude in the celebration. So, as a coach, you and I both know that a very key component is the celebration step. And so I always say, I congratulate myself whenever I'm done with the dishwasher. I'm like, yay, I'm amazing. Hello, I'm awesome, right? It sounds so silly, but it works, and it makes it not such a big deal anymore. I don't dread it as much, give myself a pat on the back. I'm awesome. But I do that honestly with every single thing that I do all day long, whether, whatever that might be, mom role or, manager of the house role or whatever role I'm taking on at that moment. Even if it's, how many times have I taken my kids to all their appointments, the doctors and the eye doctors and the orthodontists and the dentists and the physical therapists, right? It's ridiculous how much time we spend doing these things. But I look at those in two ways. Which, again, another reframe. I look at it in a different way. So I think this is great quality time with my kid right now, that I'm going to this appointment with them. We have time in the car. We have time to, discuss with whoever the doctor is. But also, I just think it makes me feel like I'm doing a great job as a mom, because I'm taking care of them. and just, I congratulate myself and I celebrate myself, and I don't think of myself as like a victim or poor me, or I have to do this again. Right. I just get excited about it and I think it's fun.
You were investing. That's how I learned to see it that way.
Mm.
And I was like, it's an investment. You know what? Right here is like this love that I'm showing them is an investment because it's helping them grow and seeing that they realize that they matter. You know, they matter to me, and and it's an investment. Every time you feel overwhelmed, take a break. Of course, like take a break. Do your whatever you got to do to breathe 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Do a happy dance, whatever you have to do to recharge. Only you know what recharge you. But we're trying to bring the message that it is an investment. It's like what we get to do. It's to me is priceless. Even though sometimes it's very overwhelming, it can be tiring because, like you said, you go from appointment to appointment or a school activity, or you need to go take them shopping for something, and boom, 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 your day is over. It's a beautiful investment. It's something I wouldn't take back. It's like I love being a mom.
Oh, I love that. Well, another thing I think of also is, we typically tend to parent how we were parented by our parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you think of it that way, that this is getting passed on. So I always think I want my grandchildren to have amazing parents. And the best way to do that is to be the best mom I can be, show them the most love I can so that they can pass that on to the next generation.
That's beautiful. Yes, because that's here we go. It's an investment. You're investing in your grandkids already.
I think it very, very far in the future. But yeah, that's how I think of it sometimes, because I know how important that is.
Yes, it is. Now, shifting a little bit our conversation about teenagers and you work with them. What are some of the challenges that you see them facing right now? And how can we help them?
Man, I hate to go into a negative, but there are some negative things, right? I mean, if we're just being honest, there are some very negative things. There is an enormous amount of pressure on body image, both boys and girls. Everyone thinks that that's just a girl issue, and I can tell you it is not. Boys are so conscious about how they look. And so as a mom, and as a coach, that's just what I'm seeing. Like, they're very concerned, obviously, right? We remember being that way, super self-conscious about things. And, that's the physical image. And then also the other big thing I'm seeing is just the way kids treat each other. They're no longer really, it's that whole screen. You know how it's so much easier to type something or text something, but then if you were to say that same thing to the person face to face, you wouldn't have the guts. I'm just seeing that, but amplified, multiplied. I have I said I didn't want to get dark, but I have a very sad story, but this just paints it perfectly. So a girl in our community passed away recently, a very tragic, sudden death. And on one of the obituary, things online, one of the boys commented, "Oh, I never had a chance to," and he said some sexual comments. And so I'm thinking, what would cause a 14-year-old boy to write that about a girl who just passed away, and her family, the community is all grieving and sad. And I thought of several things, but that's not the point. To answer your question is, that didn't exist when we were growing up. That wasn't even an option, right? If someone even had that thought, they're not going to go up to the parents and say that to, the girl's parents. They just wouldn't. No one does that. And so because of this technology and because of media, it's allowing people to behave in a way that is just really, in some cases, cruel, abusive, disgusting, very negative. And that's part of what's putting so much pressure on the way that kids live, because they're feeling like they're constantly under a magnifying glass, because everything's either being recorded or videoed or screenshotted or shared, or things just go viral.
Yeah, a lack of empathy. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. 14-year-old lack of empathy. And I'm doing my, going back to he's 14. The prefrontal cortex is not fully developed, you know,
Right.
and I'm not. So empathy is not there yet. It should be, but it's not there. As he grows up, hopefully he develops the empathy.
Yeah.
So going back to what you share, so social media, technology that we have, sometimes if it's not used properly,
Mm-hmm.
it does causes social pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm speechless, like, to be honest.
I'm
Because
sorry. I didn't mean to throw you for such a loop, but
no,
that's an example, because the thing is, that's not the first time things like that have happened. I work with teenagers, and I hear stories all the time about, people just being mean, like very mean, or they also are just very desensitized to, violence. So there have been lots and lots of fights at, our local high school. And, fighting isn't new. Fighting's been around for millions of years. High schoolers get in fights, right? Because they're, adults get in fights, right? They fight. But what's different now is people will just stand around videoing it. Somebody is getting completely beat up, but no one is stopping to help them. No one's trying to break it up. Even the teachers aren't trying to break it up because they don't want to get hurt. So some schools don't have the resources to have, a police department or security to come help break up a fight, but everybody's just standing around watching it and then sharing it. So I hate to, again, be such like a dark, but
no, I mean, it's reality, and it's reality. So now that we're here, learning about it, like, everything starts from home. So if parents are watching, like, if we can teach and guide our beautiful children to develop the empathy, because they learn from home. The way I behave, I know my kids are watching, and every behavior is taught.
Mm-hmm.
We learn our behavior somewhere, either for survival or because we were having a good time, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good that you're sharing, so our beautiful families begin to be aware. It's like, okay, how does my child behave outside my home? And one of the things I always ask, parent teacher conference, like, how does my child behave? Begin to analyze, because we, as a mom, is like, my goal is to build beautiful citizens. Only I have three responsibilities within me, and I in the home. So I know everything starts from home,
Mm-hmm.
and they learn by watching the parents. So how I react, if I talk bad about people, I mean, that's what they're going to pick up, and they're going to learn that it's okay to talk bad about people. If I react violently, they're going to be like, oh, that's okay. Like, that is okay. So as parents, we have to really analyze and observe our behavior, learn that reacting, it matters. It matters the way we react.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Which all goes back to something that you and I talked about last time we spoke, which was self-care. I cannot emphasize that enough. For, like, you talked about, what do you say to these moms who are busy and exhausted and tired and stressed, and they have so much stress and responsibility? How can you have time for self-care? And what I mean by that is not sitting in a bubble bath, eating bonbons and drinking Chardonnay, right? What I mean by that is to kind of have a little self-awareness and like a wellness check on your emotional state. So check in. How am I doing? Am I yelling a lot today? Am I feeling angry today? Am I feeling really stressed today? Because whatever that answer is, that is going to be kind of morphing out. I'm trying to think of like the right word, leaking out to your kids, right? Leaking out. Even if you think, oh, I didn't, yell at my kid today. Yeah, but they heard you yelling on the phone to your, dry cleaner, right? They heard you, or they saw you, or they witnessed you, or they felt you. They can feel the energy, right? So whatever, if you are in a mile of your kids, whatever you're doing, they will pick up on it.
Yeah. Yeah, they know. Mom, are you mad? No, I'm not mad. I'm just thinking, like, yeah, they're smart.
Yeah. And is it okay if I add something on to that?
Yes.
I don't want to dismiss the fact that we are allowed to have our feelings. Like, we want to give ourselves permission. We're allowed to be mad. right?
Yes.
We're allowed to be stressed. We're allowed to have any of these feelings. We want to model those feelings in the best, healthiest way possible for the kids, right? So it's like, it's not to say we have to be happy and chipper all the time and be perfectly relaxed like we just came from yoga, right? That's not reality. We're allowed to have these feelings, but we just want to display them in an appropriate manner so that the kids can learn how to handle those emotions.
Yes. Here we go back. Every behavior we have, we learned it from somewhere. And sometimes I find myself is like, oh, I'm acting like my mom. Yeah, because I watch my mom. It could be, something that I thought I would never do or say, but I'm like, oh, it's like my mom would say that, or I would, I've never thought I would get to that point, but it's like I learned that behavior somewhere. We like it or not. So it's good to analyze and see our, what's the relationship that I have with myself. Why am I acting this way? What's bothering me? Because our kids are watching and they're model. I mean, that's one of the reasons, and the main reason of neuroencoding is like our psychology, what we think of ourselves matter, what we think of other people and what we think of the world is kind of like the core of our psychology. So if we think everybody's after to get us, then we're going to be talking about everybody, right? And not in a nice way. So it's a beautiful, like for Laura and I, learning our core psychology, learning that if we think that people are after us, then that's all we're going to think about. But if we change it and be like, there is beautiful people, there's more beautiful people in the world, then that's what we're going to see, beautiful people every time we go out at shopping. Same thing with what we think of the world. It's like a lot of people, like the media is feeding us negative things. So it's like, if we adopt that, that's all we're going to think. Oh, the Republicans or the Democrats. And, we don't want to get into politics, but you know what I'm going. Yeah. Where can we find you?
Oh, thanks. So Positively Healthy Coaching is my website. So it's just that, positivelyhealthycoaching.com. I'm also on Instagram. I love having followers on Instagram and Facebook, obviously, as well. YouTube. So I'm kind of everywhere, but it's just easy to go to positivelyhealthycoaching.com, and then all my social links are there. You can just click the ones that you like.
Yes, and she has, I think do you have a monthly letter they can sign up for? You're always sharing tips about
I do. Yeah, I have a newsletter. So if you go to my website and download on the main page, there's a download for how to deal with stress in your teenager that will get you on my email list. So I give great tips on my email newsletters. So thank you for suggesting that.
You are welcome. Do you have any last message you want to leave us with?
My last message is, the thought that came to my mind is to just not be so hard on ourselves, like not beat ourselves up, because I think as moms and as women, we tend to criticize ourselves the most, or we feel the most bad if we didn't do something really well. And so I just want to be like, okay, everybody take a deep breath. Give yourself compliments. What did you do well? What did you do right? How are you a successful mom? It's really sad. I have had one mom say, oh, I'm a failure. I'm a failure as a mom. I said, we're scratching that right now. And you are going to tell me, how are you successful as a mom? And so she was able to, after some, prodding from me, but I just want everybody to realize they're doing the best they possibly can. And if they're watching the show, that obviously means they care and they're trying to learn and improve and grow.
Yes. Thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you, Laura, for sharing with us your knowledge and, helping us, planting those seeds to become better parents. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I so appreciate it. And, it's the thing is, I'm always learning too, right? Because we're evolving as coaches and as people. I learned from you today. I love the food idea. Like that wasn't something that was in my repertoire. So it's like, I love like learning from each other and kind of having these conversations so that we can always, improve who we are and how we can help other people.
Yes. Thank you all very much for tuning up and staying with us. Blessings. You can watch the show on my YouTube channel, Paola Guthrie. The show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all news and programming. Spanglish world. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Blessings, blessings, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.